It was in a European cafe like this one that Howard Schultz had a visionary revelation. America was lacking a neighborhood spot to grab a good cup of coffee. In 1982, Schultz was working for Starbucks as the director of marketing, and the store was nothing like the brand we know today. Founded in 1971, Starbucks was a small coffee bean retailer in Seattle, specializing in unique blends from around the globe. Starbucks was known for its knowledgeable staff, which sold excellent, perfectly roasted coffee beans. But if you walked into Starbucks in 1982, you wouldn't have been able to buy a cup of coffee. And it could have stayed that way had Howard Schultz not taken a trip to Milan, Italy. In Milan, he was amazed by the pocket-sized cafes that existed on virtually every street corner. The cafe, it seemed, was the central component of everyday Italian life. People were connecting over their cups of coffee. He returned to Seattle with a revolutionary idea. Instead of importing great coffee, Starbucks should import the entire cafe culture from abroad. His bosses balked at the idea, and for most people that would have been enough to put the idea to rest. But for a great mind like Howard Schultz, the first no wasn't a roadblock. It was an opportunity to strike out on his own. Schultz left Starbucks and founded Il Giornale in downtown Seattle, a coffee shop based on those he witnessed in Italy. To patrons accustomed to swill coffee served up in diners, the cafe was a revelation. It was wildly successful. Seattle was ready for a cafe culture. And if Seattle was ready, why not the rest of the country? Within 3 years, Schultz was successful enough to purchase Starbucks from his original employers. In 1987, Schultz started the transformation of Starbucks from a sleepy bean importer to the caffeine-infused conglomerate we know today. And although the company experienced unprecedented growth, it never forgot its Pacific Coast roots. Starbucks' model was caffeine and social consciousness with every cup. Today, Starbucks is the nation's largest importer of fair trade coffee, and it remains committed to protecting the environment. Just think, had it not been for the entrepreneurial vision of Howard Schultz, you might have had to wait years before your next trip to Italy to enjoy those caramel macchiatos.
The incomparable goodness of coffee has now been captured in a cup.
Before Starbucks, I think in the mid-'70s, people were drinking really bad coffee. They were drinking instant coffee, Maxwell House U-Behn, and perking it at home, and it wasn't very good.
Your first cup of Starbucks coffee was?
In the Pike Place store in 1979, 1980, was a French press of Sumatra.
How much coffee is too much coffee?
I drink about 4 to 5 cups of coffee a day.
What do you say when doctors say cut down on your coffee?
To me, they don't say that. they don't say that. You just came for the day?
You just came for the day. You're the highlight of our day.
Oh.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you for your compliment.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. When I came here for the first time, had never been in a Starbucks store. Walked into this very store, and by the way, we have changed nothing through the years. This is the original store as is. And they handed me a cup of coffee made this way. Now, this is a cup of Sumatra, which is Indonesian coffee. This is how I tasted my first cup of coffee. And I just knew from that moment on that I was home. Did I ever imagine that we would one day have stores in 65 countries serving almost 80 million customers a week? No. Growing up in Brooklyn in the projects in the early 60s, what I would loosely describe as the other side of the tracks, provides a deep sense of understanding that there's a world out there that's very, very different than the world that is inside where we grew up. And I wanted to be part of that world. When I finished school, I got hired by a great company, and that was Xerox. And I worked there for a number of years, but I just didn't feel I belonged in a very structured environment. So I left Xerox, and I went to work for a large Swedish company that was starting a U.S. consumer division. In a very roundabout way, they had a customer in Seattle, Washington called Starbucks. Their aspiration at the time was to expand to Portland, Oregon. I somewhat persuaded them that perhaps Starbucks' opportunity was bigger and they needed someone like me. You have to understand, Starbucks had 3 stores in '82, but the core business was just selling pounds of ground and roasted coffee for home use. A year after I joined the company, I went to Italy for the first time. First of all, you can't walk through any major city or town in Italy without running into a coffee bar and seeing the sense of community and the romance and theater around espresso. It just made me realize that Starbucks perhaps was not in the right part of the coffee business, that the real business and the opportunity was the integration of the beverage to creating a destination and a sense of community in the store. What I experienced in Italy was something that was transferable in the U.S. Bring, for the first time, great coffee, introduce new beverages that no one ever heard of. No one heard of a cafe latte before. I raced home to talk to the founders about the experience I had, and they rejected it. Over a period of 2 years, I left Starbucks to start my own chain of Italian coffee bars. At that time, Starbucks found itself in financial difficulties. And so the founder came to me and said, I can't think of Starbucks in better hands than if it was in your hands. I realize you don't have the money. I'll give you X amount of time to try and find it. I was able to buy Starbucks in August of '87. They had 6 stores at the time for $3.8 million. I didn't, at that point, have an understanding that coffee would one day become part of the culture or the zeitgeist in ways that I couldn't possibly understand or predict. I think we realized early on that what we had to do is everything had to prove itself in the cup. The ability to source and roast the highest quality Arabica beans in the world gave us the platform to do things that would define and build an industry that did not exist. Many people at the time were convinced Starbucks was too strong, and we had to educate the market and the customer about, no, this is what coffee should taste like. And there you have it.
Why do we taste coffee? Different coffees from different places in the world have different flavor nuances. So we're really looking to capture and benchmark those flavors and really looking at coffee quality. I'm Leslie Wolford and I work on the coffee quality team and I get to taste coffee for a living. So the first thing is smell the coffee. It is a good indication of what you're gonna get to taste. So if you're excited about something you're smelling, chances are it's gonna be really good when you get to taste it. Step number 2 is slurping. You can't evaluate what you're tasting until you slurp. And so when you slurp, I'm going to be pulling air into my mouth. And the idea with that is it's going to coat the whole inside of my mouth and really help me create an impression of the coffee. So I'm just going to drip my spoon in there. I kind of chew it up a little bit, roll it around. It helps me get a really good impression of the coffee. And then we're going to actually use words to describe what we're tasting. I get a little bit of a chocolate flavor, fresh green herbs, earthy, syrupy, flavors of citrus, floral notes, and it has a very nice, pleasing sweetness to it. The idea is to explore all of the great flavors that there are out there in coffee. Enjoy it, taste it, share it, because coffee is fun. Coffee always surprises.
Realmente la estamos viendo ahorita y estamos viendo el futuro de la caficultura a nivel nacional como algo bastante difícil.
On our recent trip to Honduras, we were faced with one of the many challenges affecting the quality of life of coffee producers: La Roya, or coffee rust disease.
Yo recuerdo que yo estaba pequeño, creo que hubo un problema así, pero la roya solo atacó las fincas de allá de las zonas bajas. Y ahora yo creo que con el cambio de clima, entonces por eso es que ya la enfermedad pudo afectar hasta aquí en las partes altas.
Coffee rust is a spreading fungus that infects the foliage of a coffee tree. The leaves will eventually fall, decreasing the tree's ability to accumulate the necessary energy for fruit production.
Ya estos granos ya están siendo afectados por la defoliación, entonces ya no maduran, sino que se tornan así como un color amarillento y ya son blanditos para caerse, ya no se sostienen en el palo y ya esto ya no sirve, este grano, ya está dañado. Entonces ahí se puede ver que aquí había más café, ya empieza a caerse, aquí en el suelo ya se miran los granos verdes de café junto con las hojas. Este año en Honduras ha sido bastante afectado por la enfermedad de la roya y a pesar de que se han querido hacer esfuerzos para controlarla, ha sido imposible, no ha surtido ningún efecto los tratamientos que se le han dado. El productor de café está solo con la enfermedad y solamente está viendo las fincas dañadas y ver que el fruto ya se le está cayendo.
In Honduras and other Central American countries, the coffee yields are decreasing by up to 40%. This reduces household income and therefore could increase food insecurity, forcing families to eat less or to borrow money.
Realmente casi nadie quisiera ser productor de café en esta situación en que estamos. Y realmente lo que queda es seguir haciendo esfuerzos y renovar parcelas, y eso le va a implicar a los productores de café muchos costos y los financiamientos también aquí en el país están en porcentajes de interés altos.
We believe that the problem of La Roya is not one that coffee farmers should face alone. The coffee industry, including our company, has a role to play in supporting coffee growing communities. We are currently gathering information from our coffee partners on the extent of this year's coffee rust epidemic and the impact on farmer livelihoods so that we can develop our plan of action. One of our strategies in our outreach work has been to improve food security through grants that support household food production and livelihood diversification, which are two strategies that will help build resilience to shocks in the coffee system like La Roya. Another part of our commitment is to raise awareness in consuming countries about issues that affect not only the quality of the coffee we drink, but the quality of life of those who produce it.
Mi abuelo producía café, mi papá produció café, yo estoy produciendo café y mis hijos también van a producir café. Es la esperanza, todo, cultura tal vez, así. Y si no hay producción, pues estamos muriendo en una crisis. La verdad, la roya es algo inesperado, ¿no? Que llegó y empezamos a ver los cafetales, que se le empezó a caer la hoja, pero muy rápido se le fue cayendo las hojitas. Y en términos de un año vimos los cafetales totalmente terminados. Se reflejó en la economía de cada familia. Quienes teníamos hijos en las escuelas, en las universidades, tuvimos que retirar los hijos de la escuela porque ya no daba el recurso para seguirlos manteniendo en una universidad. Tuvimos que hacer un recorte de personal en la finca. Mucha gente ha decidido de emigrar pues, a los Estados Unidos. Realmente eso es una solución, una salida a este problema, hacer o renovar cafetales. Más que son plantas más tolerantes a la roya. Eso es la esperanza que hoy tienen nuestras familias. Es la esperanza que en unos pocos años podemos volver a tener producción. Agradecemos totalmente a las personas que puedan hacer su compra con las tiendas de Starbucks y comprar una bolsita de café, que están contribuyendo para la producción en Chiapas y poder seguir manteniendo nuestras familias. Hacemos el labor todo, como se dice, con mucho amor y con mucha pasión.
I like pour over because it creates a nice clean cup of coffee, right? You get all those beautiful flavors in a subtle and very approachable way. So the first step of a good pour over is you're gonna pre-wet your filter just to kind of get everything a little bit warm and get some of that paper taste out. The most important thing is, remember, you gotta get rid of that water before you start to brew your coffee. Then you're gonna put in your freshly ground coffee, and your grind should be a cone grind, and it should resemble granulated sugar. So what we recommend for proportion for a pour over cone is 2 tablespoons for every 6 ounces of water. So when you start your pour for the pour over, you're gonna want to make sure your water is nice and hot just off the boil. You're gonna pour in just a little bit of water to let the coffee bloom, and that's gonna let the coffee hydrate and get it ready to extract. And then you pour, and that's the greatest part of pour over. You do these nice even circles and you get to fill it up, and it's very rhythmic. And you wait for the goodness. The pour over method just produces such a beautiful cup of coffee that's not too heavy, but not too light. It's just so perfect.
Espresso was invented in 1901 by an Italian, Luigi Bezzera. He had developed a means by which coffee could be compressed into a cake and water would be pressed through it. By 1905, machines had been developed by the Pavoni company in which this process had been perfected. By the 1920s, these La Pavona machines had become very popular. In 1938, Cremonese had developed a new machine for making espresso. This machine included a piston-based pump for the forcing of water through the coffee. The importance of this piston-based machine is that it would allow for the creation of a distinctive cream or crema on the top of the espresso. This cream, or crema, is now seen to be a sign of richness and perfection in espresso. The first modern espresso machine was developed in 1961 by Fema. These machines relied upon a pump rather than a piston to heat their water. The importance of these pump-based machines was that it allowed for water to be heated on demand rather than through a large reservoir. In the 1980s and 1990s, newer machines for brewing espresso have been developed, semi-automatic followed by fully automatic machines. In recent years, espresso pods have also appeared. These machines can do anything. They can grind, measure, some can even froth milk. It's like having your own barista at home.
Our biggest threat as humans is thinking that we and the planet are invincible. That kind of denial has put our world at risk. But we humans also have the power to learn and to make a difference. Conservation International believes that people need nature, that it's our responsibility to protect it. For 15 years, Conservation International has been on an amazing journey with Starbucks to ethically source their coffee around the world. Together, they've created a new way to buy that coffee, one that is sustainable, transparent, and good for people and the planet. This journey has covered 4 continents where they've improved the lives of 1 million farmers and workers and cared for millions more coffee trees. Conservation International is proud to recognize Starbucks for ethically sourcing 99% of their coffee, making them the largest coffee retailer to reach this milestone. But there's always more to do. Starbucks is committed to 100% ethically sourced coffee. It is that constant pursuit of this last 1% that helps make the world a better place. That's why Starbucks is working with groups like Eastern Congo Initiative, which is helping thousands of coffee farmers in the Democratic Republic of Congo to increase their production, creating opportunities for local communities. In the end, this isn't about coffee. It's about possibilities and commitment. Whether you're a global company like Starbucks or a single human being, you can make a difference. And all those differences add up to a world that's changed for the better.